Yeah, call it
Same building.
Breeze. Go for it. Go for it.
Brittany, Bree.
You see
Probably. I feel
No, I don't have a seat yet. You guys go ahead.
Okay. I'm just checking what Dave told me.
What room did you say?
He says that Sean Peterson will show us which room tomorrow morning.
Oh.
Yeah, when he said
She
Oh, this is for.
Can I get you some tea
Who's
or
the
coffee?
titular? Sean?
Not tonight. Okay.
Good friend of
Yeah, I'm just gonna go grab some fresh.
John, we need some knows it pretty well.
So did we figure it out or are we giving up?
No, I don't have a marker, no,
Oh,
we're
we
gonna
just
do
got-
it.
we got
We're
sidetracked.
gonna do it.
But I'm seeing it there, I've got like 8th day of the month, so it said like, at la quadre,
But
so.
I
What
did
if
this,
you go-
I did for when it's the month, I said that, so you say your number and then the hospital.
When you, there's a sheet there.
I think we add the.
That's for the J and then the
Yeah.
month. So.
So is there a way to say how you ish? Or how do you work? I think what's to say.
Yes, I got it.
What is it?
Some people will already have them. So.
How you ish.
Suture chip, and then it's the book, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need this?
Thank you for your help.
You're right, but suture chip is also by itself, it's just right.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm good, but we'll leave it here.
I know you,
I
Clara.
didn't think it yet.
Oh,
I don't know if I did this. The original.
No.
They're not stapled or anything.
Are they any together? Are they different or they probably the same?
Yeah.
Where's that camera?
Yeah, I didn't think I needed the one last week. The one you had last week was actually different.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'll leave that there.
No, it's in.
I want anyone that got it.
If you just say you don't need it. Did we not find a driver?
Here's the handout for tonight.
No.
There you go. Hi.
Did you guys figure it out? Where's coffee? Did you figure out the name?
Hello. Au class free. Au class free.
No, it's hidden.
Angie.
I don't remember the
Yeah.
name. I ish suture.
Free.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Clara.
Chibs. That's my Indian name. One who helps others.
That's what I have on my class. I need the left and the
Tired, you didn't even know it.
It's the herbal teas.
You grab a chair and just sit.
How you in?
How was yeah. Oh really? Small crowd. Did Leslie show up?
Just a little, just a little, well, you do need that, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they were here last.
She does need it.
I put like that.
Not the.
Suture, she needs a little.
Whatever it is. No, it's like I think I just slept very from the massage. It might have been like I was thinking maybe she just like loosened something and then it just like tightened up or something, but I don't know.
Oh, we're just saying up the month. Yeah.
It's still really tender, but no, it's not. Thank you.
And the C is a little wedge. I, E, or sorry, another T. And then at, so the A was right out.
Which one?
Yeah.
I might be able to. It's going over what the rest of this market.
Oh, maybe.
You feel comfortable with your location? Yeah.
I think it's always like.
And then you wanna say-
Put a reminder in your phone.
Lead people through, I'll just interrupt if I think it's necessary.
Okay, my
Sure, she'll interrupt too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there she goes. So I just need it up somewhere. Yeah, I'm getting better at that.
Good. So good. Whatever. No one's judging.
Okay, how'd they do on?
I thought it was there last week too. I think it's someone else. Because it was there, the blue one, it was there last week too, and he wasn't here. Yeah.
Well, it's a bit of a conflict with the before, but
She said she was gonna try. She's not feeling well, so I don't know.
Yeah, we should do that every week then.
I can't do that.
I think next week we'll let you child.
All right.
I'm gonna try to do this to that. Mary, I remember from all the kids, all the girls.
Yeah.
We shall talk.
I should think that.
That's fine.
Good. Yeah.
Every time I move, I'm just like, yeah, it was fine, I'm just really tired. It's really, it's really, everything went really well.
I think so.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. You gotta go.
So I think everybody can. There was a lot of.
Katie, can I talk to you guys during the break?
Are we in trouble?
No, just wonder your hoping something.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Does it miss hockey?
Oh, do you want?
How are you?
I don't have the kids in lessons all day, that's a short one. I remember it's
Yeah.
No, they're not.
You're welcome. Is there a reason why it's changed? Please leave chair. Okay. Wasn't sure if I was doing it.
Kind of still enjoying.
Yeah, I'm Annabelle's, daughter-in-law.
More shots.
Shane.
Really?
Yeah. Shane's my auntie-in-law.
Yeah.
It's not on my Lara.
Pardon?
No, it's
Yeah.
Fama.
like a little.
Allison. Yeah.
Fama Katie.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was one girl there, it just takes a long. Well, she's.
And Clara.
Yeah, it's something.
It was like, she was like, finish it, like just walk around, you know, it was this.
Good. I missed David's already. And then I was like, okay, I have to exercise in that time. So.
Remember?
I
Numbers and.
Yeah, make sure it's a long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Friday. Oh, I know, I really hope I don't get anything from the kid list. I'm
Also,
like,
every, you know,
you're doing running petri dishes.
Honestly, I was a public librarian forever, and that is really great. About it.
Very dirty.
Afterwards. I just missed it.
I missed it. Yeah.
Like who knows like where that book was put and stuff like that. And for example, my boyfriend grabs a random book of mine and starts rolling something. And I look at him, I'm like, really?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, will you simply excuse me? I was like, what's my book? He's like, are you so slow? Like, did you receive one of my weird voicemails?
At least it was a library.
Well, I called you a couple of times and I left you a voicemail. Maybe I'm calling someone else. I called you to see if you wanted to do some work with me at the library. And her time, I was like, oh, I wonder what she did. Yeah. You know, and then also just like learning. Yeah. I called you again after that. I was worried about you down there, Serena. Answer. And I thought I'd turn my phone off. But I left you like a 15-minute voicemail or someone.
You were feeling well? No, it was my nephew and my dad share the same birthday. It was last Thursday, the 8th. And then my sister-in-law is on the 9th, so we just did a big family celebration. Yeah.
Right, because they're not as close to the rest of
So yeah, I might try to leave early and come here, but
I'm so bad at it. Usually only way to work today.
No, I didn't bring my kids.
Did you? I'll make some more.
Today, and there was just so much going on. I thought, you know what, they're too excited to. I don't think they would have done well for sit Did you're
on
with us?
Thursdays.
Yeah.
You're on their Thursday list.
I'm on this Thursday list.
So did the others go and just watch the whole game, or did they watch for one game? Early,
I chetni Ortachi Coco Atza. Lechatzi Tlachimaxti Anis Natuas. So A. Jamakin, Angie, Esther, Larry, Paisitamin to Inachik, Natsa Yad. Lakshit Chupi Niwa, Kukuatsa, you can Ortachi, you can Artakshik Masa, Kukuatsa. Tapitskin Atsi. You can hear by my voice that I'm a little bit sick, but I'm glad to say that I feel better than I did this morning. Ich atla ahku anin zamisuk qaapkin ahku qortakshi tsaksa ushti ani ushtsukot. Sometimes it's hard for us to gather to speak language. For some of us, it's always hard to find time. practicing language is a little bit like exercising. There's always a reason not to do it. You have to decide for yourself how important it is to you. And I'm very glad that so many of you have consistently decided week after week that this is important enough to keep coming to. I would really like to have at least one sub who's ready to lead this class. But right now, there isn't a sub. So I don't plan to cancel language for anything short of an emergency. Dikshit lah tishad ish hupachasat ani utah ku nismei taho al wasita siwa hashquiyat kanataat Kunishchiat Ahosat Taho al Wasi Siwa Ani Sekanachit Juch Dikshir Vitasni Paaklin wa Yakin Yaklayan Ahad Yaklay Klui Kot Koas. Tonight we're going to practice introducing ourselves and other people, saying who we are and who other people are. There's a very basic bit of language that we practiced last term, and I practice almost every term when I lead classes, which is to say, Oklama Adam Histakshitla, Siah, Ohokwa Homieksu Elspeth, Ohokwa Noeksu Kent. My name is Adam, I come from Seattle. My mother is Elspeth, my father is Kent. That's the most basic introduction that it's good to be able to do when you're with Nuu-chah-nulth people. When Nuu-chah-nulth people meet each other for the first time, it's normal to go through a much longer introduction to say where you come from, where your grandparents came from, and in doing that, we learn how we're connected. This introduction is a shortened version of that, but it's a good place to start. This term, I hope that we can do a little bit more. We'll do a little bit more practice, not only introducing ourselves, but how to talk about who other people are, how to ask, who is that person? I don't know who that is. Do you know who that is? Tell me that person's name. What's his name? His name is so-and-so. He's Jeff. He's Daryl. She's Clara, and so on. Since my voice is weak tonight, I'm going to speak less than usual, and you're going to speak more than usual. And Angie has offered to help me practice the vocabulary. But before we get to that, Caitlin Chumulko Titsakan Kopi Hopini wa Titsakan Khon. Caitlin's gonna lead us in the prayer. Huge.
Next time here, or do I need to come up there?
Wherever you like.
Come up there.
You be you.
This is a prayer I do with my students every day at Hahopiak. So everyone will just stand and brush up. Heklaklanas ne ichi in hupi in hotakshia hupi in tataksapa hisitsqui et nananiexu hupi in hotakshia quasqui et yaquimit e staklin u shachaklet na si ah.
Oh, who should you take? You, now Allison will lead us in prayer. Just kidding.
Say it.
I'm sorry. So I would like it if other people will take turns next time, and if no one's ready next time, maybe Caitlin will lead us again. Angie, will you help us pronounce the words at 5.3? Does anyone not have a copy of the handout? This is the same one we used last term in October or November. We'll start with the words.
Okay.
Be sure to face the group so we can all hear you.
Okay.
Let's begin. We'll jump in.
Okay. Word for I or me. Sit-yat. Sit-yat.
Sit-yat.
Kohasiwa.
Sit-yat.
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 Ahuasiwa.
Sit-yat. Sit-yat.
Sit-walk.
Suwak.
You. Uhasiwa.
Suwak.
Okay. Suwa.
Suwak.
Achak.
Achak.
Uhusiwa. Umiaksu.
Umiaksu.
Mother. Nuiaksu.
Nuiaksu.
Father. Ukla.
Ukla.
Bi. Bi. Say that one. I'm not sure about that one. Okay. One's is Histachik
Histachik.
comes from Hopi. Help. Flakshik.
Not that big inch.
Oh, go ahead. Hopi. No.
Hopi.
Yeah. Hopi. Okay.
Flakshik.
Flakshik. Yaakuk.
Yaakuk.
Is that good?
Yaakuk. Super.
That was good?
Yes, true. Will you help me, will you help us go through the conversations now?
This one, yeah.
Yep, there are a lot of conversations in this unit. I don't put this many conversations in the unit anymore. This is when I was over optimistic on how many we could do. But I'd like to review conversations 1 through 4. Conversations 1 through 4 are examples of how we can talk about who people are. Conversations 5 through 7 are polite, friendly language that it's nice to know, but don't directly have to do with talking about who people are. So let's do conversations 1 through 4. And feel free to stop us if you want to make a comment or question.
The bottom can answer. Okay. The first one, Achaklahak. My name is Uklama. My name is
Uklama.
Uyayapchik. Achakhak. Who are you? Histakshikla. I'm from Histakshikla Hupachasat. Okay, now I'll do it this way, right? Without mine, okay. Uhukwa. Umiaksu. My mother is Uhukwa Nuaksu. My father is Achakha Ya Kutsmei. I've not used this one. Ma Joan.
Ma Joan.
I don't know her. Now 4, right? Okay, now number 4A. I chuck la ha ya Jakub A. What is that man's name? Uklama Peter. I can't say that one.
Yes, Charles?
Why does the barred lambda have an L sound after consonants? Is that something we discussed?
Where do you hear that?
A chaklahak. Or the last one just did. Where's that one? A chaklahak.
what is your name? What is his name? So in this word, you're sometimes hearing the barred L as if it were just a plain old L.
Yeah.
That might be because we sometimes hear the barred L in English after a voiceless consonant. So like play and clear, because the P and the C have a puff of breath after them. In English, that puff of breath actually turns the English L into a barred L. Clear, play. But we don't hear that, right? Because in English, there's no distinction between plain L and barred L. We consider them all to be L. So this is suddenly sounding to you like this L. You want to think maybe it sounds like an English L now, and it does in this context. But it's still phonetically it's still being pronounced as a barred L in Nuchana. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I just, I mean, typically when I've been reading and trying to pronounce, I see the barred L, and it's all, I almost think kind of a lispy TH or something like that, which, you know, in Chakahak, it would be much more difficult for me to make that lispy TH after the Q. I mean, it's certainly easier to say it as we are saying it. But to me, I see a difference in the way, at least in the way I look at it and pronounce it.
Yeah, there's, this is a very complex topic in sounds because we write, we write the English alphabet, we write the Nuchonal alphabet. The English alphabet is 26 letters, the Nuchonal alphabet is 45 letters. But actually in actual speech, there's hundreds of different sounds that we make. And we classify a whole bunch of different sounds as one single letter in our heads. So there's what actually sounds like, and there's actually what we hear in our heads. And speakers of different languages will classify sounds that they hear differently. And a Nuchonal speaker will say, that sounds to me more like a barred L. And an English speaker might say, that sounds to me more like an L. Okay.
Yeah. Did you have an explanation somewhere where the barred lambdas, the barred lambda, the
other one?
The cloudwise barred lambda and barred L, they're all got kind of an L sound to them in our language.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've spent a little bit of time talking about that, and I have a handout that I use. This is the alphabet in alphabetical order, and these are the alphabet sounds according to how they're made. And like Angie says, you see that the barred L and the barred lambda sounds are in the same column. And what that signifies is that they're all very similar sounds. One way of putting it is that they're all L sounds. And one of the differences between English and Nuchonal is that the English L is a resonant L. Involves vibrating vocal cords. But the Nuchonal L sounds are spirant L, sla, and a plosive L, kla. So Nuchonal has plosive and spirant L's, but no resonant L. In English is the reverse. It has a resonant L, but no plosive and spirant L's. Is that what you're getting at, Angie?
Yeah.
And another piece of advice that I give people a lot is that the barred L and the barred lambda are very common sounds in Nuchonal. They're so common that you really need to learn them. And what a lot of people do is they learn one or the other, and they use it for both. And it's important not to get stuck at that point, but do learn to pronounce and hear the difference between them. This is one of the things that I don't think is difficult because it's actually difficult. It's only difficult because it's so different from English. Any other questions or remarks on these conversations? So we'd like to work up to doing exercise 1, which is on the second page. You're going to talk to a partner, and you're going to ask who people in the room are. So for example, you might say, Achakhaya Chakupi. Achakhaya Chakupi, who's that man? And my partner will say, Ohma Giles. Who's Giles? Ohma Giles. Achakhaya Thutsmehi. Ohma Clara. She's Clara. Ohma Clara. Achakhaya Thutsmehi. Ohma Heather. Achakhaya Chakupi. Ohma Daryl. You see, these sentences are quite simple, but nevertheless, there's a lot to know on how to put them together. We have to know the real mood ending ma and the question mood ending ha. We have to know the difference between ma, meaning he, she, or it, and ma, meaning I. We have to know that after a short stem like oh, ma is pronounced with a long A. Oh, ma Giles. Yes, Maura?
Can we go ahead and do everyone's names? I don't know everyone's name.
Oh, sure. Why don't we do that? Achaklahak. What's your name? Achaklahak?
Uklama, Moira.
Achaklahak?
Can we ask the next person?
Yeah, go ahead, Allison.
Uklama Katie.
Chaklahak? Are we just going around? Okay. Uklama Caitlin. Chaklahak.
Utlama Giles. Achaklahak.
Uklama Peggy.
Utlama Muriel.
Uklama Lisa Trombley. Chaklahak.
Anybody else? Chaklahak.
Angie. Chaklahak.
Uklama Clara.
Chaklahak.
Uklama Brittany.
Chaklahak.
Larry. Cool, so cool.
Chaklahak.
Classy Chester. Adam. If I answer during syndrome, that's okay.
Yeah, that is, I encourage people to do that.
Yeah.
It might be confusing at first, but it's
I
good
don't have
practice.
on my end.
In the old days, everyone spoke their own dialects and they all understood each other, like in Star Wars.
So Larry.
We're trying to get back to that point, so please speak whatever dialect you're most comfortable with.
It's a ish too, they Larry.
Did I say that?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
You're on a roll.
Achaklahak.
Uklama Heather. Chaklahak.
Who's there?
Who's there?
Who's that did that dialect?
Nice.
Achaklahak.
Uklama Kuyayakshi. Chaklahak.
Uklas Bree. There it is. Achaklahak.
Uklama Allison.
Thank you for suggesting that, Allison. Now we're going to do that again, except the question we're going to ask is, who are you? Just now we were asking, Achaklahak, what is your name? The part of that means name is the sa. That little bit, sa, means that we're talking about what something is called rather than who it is. Yes, Bree?
Just a question, like, if you do have Aboriginal descent, would you say that, like, that is where you're from, or do you say where you grew up?
It's up to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Histukshit is very flexible. It can also just mean where I just came from.
Oh.
Like Histukshit I just came from Vernacular. You know, but it can also mean, you can use it to mean where you live, where you grew up, where you were born, where your roots are. It's up to you.
So when you explain your roots, do you say, like, for example, like, I'm from the Ojibwe region, but I'm Chippewa from the Ojibwe. So, like, would I say Chippewa or Ojibwe?
Again, that's up to you.
Okay.
If you're Chippewa, I would say that you're Chippewa.
Okay.
You know, you could say something a little more complicated, like Histukshitla, Ojibwe. I'm come from where the Ojibwe live.
Okay. I'll learn that eventually.
But we're not getting quite that complicated yet. The next question we're going to ask is Achaklahak. Who are you? Achaklahak. And you see, this is the same as Achaklahak, except there's no kla. So when we ask Achaklahak, we're asking, who are you? When we ask Achaklahak, we're asking, what are you called? What is your name? So notice in Nuchanov, we literally ask, who are you called? When we're talking about people, we use, who are you called? Who is he called? Who is she called? If you're talking about things, then we ask, what is it called? What is that called? What is this called? So on. And when you're identifying yourself in response to Achaklahak, there's a few ways to do it. One way is with just now we reviewed ma Lisa, she's Lisa. Ma Giles, he's Giles. We can use but change the ending to talk about ourselves. Adam, I am Adam. Adam. Do you hear how that changed? Adam. What part of that indicates that I'm talking about myself? Right, the ending. There's yet another way to say it. I can use the root siyak. Siyak is a word that literally means I, and I can combine it with an ending that also means I. Siyaka.
Did anybody happen to pick up a set of keys from the front desk?
I think I did. Those keys are with me.
Sounds like something I would.
I'm not sure how they got in here, but ready.
Thank you.
It was probably me.
So we can also say siyaka. I am at siyaka. And notice that there's two bits there that both mean I. Siyak means I, ah means I. That's perfectly natural in Nuchon. One way of understanding it is that siyak is the part that really means I, it's pointing to me. Ah is just agreement. If you study French, you know that French nouns have gender, masculine or feminine. When an adjective modifies it, it has to agree with the noun in gender. This is an extra bit where the language just makes sure that two things agree. And endings have to agree in that way. The ending agrees with whoever the sentence is about, even if it's extra and redundant information. Yes, Caitlin?
Just in case we forgot people's names, how would I say I don't know that person?
That's on the conversation.
Is it in there?
Yeah, there's a special word for that. Tachucha.
Is it on the next page?
Tachucha.
Oh, it's on there. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, but you could also literally say hayaka yaki or hayaka yakusi. That literally means I don't know who she is. Hayaka. I don't know. Yep, hayama. Isn't it means the same as hayaka? All right, so let's try that.
Heis would be the same as that.
I'm gonna ask Lisa who she is, and she can answer either Oha Lisa or Sityaka Lisa. Chakak.
Siyaka Lisa.
Oh, true. Dugi. Ask that man.
I didn't know I was still in the conversation. Mario.
Dugi. Ask him who he is.
Oh.
Dugi Yakusi.
Chaka.
Mary. Achak.
Siyaka. Maybe. Chaka.
Siyaka Johns. Achakhak.
Siyaka Caitlin. Achakak. Uha Katie.
Achakak. Siyaka Allison. Achakak.
Uklas Bree.
Bree, Dugi shoots me. That's that one.
Paul. Ajaklaha. Oh, whoops.
Dugi, Yaki, ask her who she is.
Ajaklaha. Sorry, my bad.
Heather.
Chester. Adam. Do you know that fish?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the same, eh?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fish Chester. That's the way we say this.
Is that in
Please
Heshkut?
continue. Dugi Chakupi Yaki.
Oh, how's it?
Uha, Brittany? Uha or
Yeah.
Real, that's it. Clara. Chuck.
Angie.
Sia Pam.
Moira?
I'll do this. Oha, Adam. So, as Chester was saying, just as we can say Oha, Adam, Sidiaka, Adam in Berkeley Sound dialect, in his dialect, which is a central dialect, he would say Oh, Chester or Sidiak, Chester. The roots are the same, but the endings are different, but they all mean the same thing. A point of pronunciation. Not everyone was pronouncing the Y hard in Sitya. Do you hear that that's a hard Y? Sitya. Sitya. If it were plain Y, it would be Siyak. But it's not. It's Sitya. Sitya. We pronounce the hard Y by completely closing the vocal cords very briefly before the Y. Sitya. Sitya. Also, a lot of people were doing something that's perfectly natural but not right, which is to you know that oh is meaningful, and you know that ah is meaningful. So you really want to. A lot of people really want to stick a glottal stop between them. That makes them emphasize the two different parts. Oh ah. Oh ah. Do you hear that I'm pronouncing a glottal stop here? Oh ah. But that's wrong. That's not how we pronounce it in English. The syllables are oh ha. Oh ha. The M is not pronounced. The M is not pronounced, so this back H is the beginning of the second syllable. Oh, ha. And there's no glottal stop after the H. Yes, Daryl?
Oh, so the hard Y and hard W's are kind of like having a glottal stop in front of it?
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Yeah, that's how they sound.
Are there any other consonants like that?
Well, those are the hard resonants. There are 4 hard resonants in New Channel. Hard M, hard N, hard Y, and hard W. Those are the ones that are pronounced like they have a glottal stop before them. Ma, mi, su, ni, si, ya, su, u. And those are the only 4 sounds like that. There are also hard plosives, but hard plosives express their hardness differently with a stronger explosion. And it has to do with different ways that plosives and resonants are pronounced.
Before I remembering how the syllables go too, I just remembered that because we did that in class today. But the syllables, and that's where that was created after the
You did it in class today?
Well, we did the kids, yeah, we were doing
Oh,
syllables.
cool. At ADSS?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, it's I can't recommend enough practicing syllables unless it comes perfectly natural to you. If you're one of the few people who can pick it up perfectly naturally, great. Otherwise, you're probably going to need to practice breaking down New Channel words into proper New Channel syllables as opposed to English syllables. For now, I'd like you to notice, but you don't have to understand, the fact that the question "Achakhak," who are you, and the question "Achaksahak," what is your name, differ only in this ending here, "sa," which means called. This ending is, I find we use this ending a lot in language class, because in language class, we not only talk about what people are called, but we're asking the names of things that we don't know the New Channel word for. So we use this ending a lot, and it's a bit complicated. So it usually has, it always has this form, sa, but it sometimes has other bits as well. And for now, you should just try to recognize it when you see it. And when you've gotten comfortable with enough examples, then you'll be ready to learn more about how to use sa. So now I'd like you to try exercise 1 with a partner. You're gonna ask your partner, who are you, and what is your name? And then you're also gonna ask about other people in the room. Who is he? Who is she? What's his name? What's her name? And these are examples you can use. When you're identifying people, we can use the word oh. Oh, ma Clara, she's Clara. Oh, ma Lisa, she's Lisa. When you're identifying yourself, you can use oh, oha, Adam, or you can also use siyak, siyaka, Adam. So go ahead and work with the person you're next to. Mario and Lisa, Peggy and Giles, Caitlin, Katie, Allison, Bree, Daryl, Angie, Brittany, Heather, Clara, Angie, Moira, and Pam, and 2 old men with each other. Please observe and help.
I would be like, what's that one?
Work it out.
Really? Okay.
We might have. Very possible. Yeah. Take care, easy people. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, and do you work in the school or at the daycare?
I work
And actually also EA as well. I have my human service worker certificate. I'll go get more into it, but I don't know.
Is it the same thing? Oh, you can say his name is. It's an apostle.
Maybe you're thinking Kathleen Bobbin?
Oh, I could do that.
Oh, on the end.
And then you can say it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Okay,
I check actually, I don't remember right now. Actually, maybe we ask for help. Adam, yes? So we're on this one here then? Okay, so someone, okay, I was just confused by it because.
We're asking who are you, not what's your name.
Oh, you told me that before. You told me that. That's funny. That's awkward.
Okay, so just this. So now.
Oh, great. Maggie.
This is asking who is this man, and we're okay. There's women. Okay, who are okay? No, now I get it.
That is okay, wait.
I should put down the woman one too, just so it's also confusing. So what? The man is Kupi. Sorry, what was the name?
Clara.
So for women,
when we go from ya to ye,
Heather.
Chuck. Yeah, it's me.
you're picking out rules.
Sorry, I'm just reading this stuff.
I don't know.
Uthma or Uthma Daryl.
I like it.
Oh, right. Achakaya Kakupi.
Say I don't know.
Oh, my bad. Oh, I'm tired. You can understand working with kids all day. Okay, I'm trying to say Achakaya Kutsami.
Did everyone have a chance to make that exercise work? Is there anything you don't understand about that exercise? Caitlin asked me if you say it any differently, if you're talking about a man or a woman. Is Uthma used for both? The answer is yes. There's no gender in Nuchano like there is in English. There are no words for he and she in Nuchano. So we use the same words for men and women. Uthma Heather, she's Heather. Uthma Daryl, he's Daryl. You were, when we were talking about who's that man, who's that woman, we were saying Chakhaya Chakupi, who's that man, Achakhaya Tutsmei, who's that woman? When Mario was talking about Chester, he said Achakhaye Chakupi, because he decided that Chester was far enough to be described with yeah.
Who's showing off?
Mario.
Further than yeah. And there are other words you can
I
use.
like that.
Well, how about if you're pointing to someone who's right next to you, who you could touch, who's close enough for you to touch?
Height and high, Hogan height.
Okay, you're getting closer. Those are central words.
Huh?
Okay. Remember akakaku? What's this? Akakaku? Aku points to something that's close to you.
That's right. And then Agni.
And then, but there's one more. If you're talking about something that's closer to the person you're talking to, it's you. Ahni.
Nailed it.
You get a gold star, Heather. So ya is a good general purpose pointer word in the channel, but there are these other pointer words as well for different distances. Aku, ahni, ya, ye. What does the eight mean in Chakuki?
They?
Yeah, the, more or less means the. So notice that in Nuchano, if it's natural to use a pointer word and a the together, we can say Aku Chakupi, this man, literally this the man. And we can't do that in English, but it's normal in Nuchano because in English, this and the come in the same part of the sentence, but in Nuchano, they come in different parts of the sentence. The pointer comes before the word usually, and the comes after the word. So you can use them both.
It's the same for Ahni.
Yeah, Ahni Hutzmehi, that woman by you. Ahni Hutzmehi. Ya Hutzmehi, that woman over there. Ye Hutzmehi, that woman way over there. Good. So the purpose of this practice, besides the fact that this is useful to be able to say, Chakhaya, who's that? Chakhaku, who's this? Is so that when we introduce ourselves, the words that we're using there mean more to you. A lot of people learn these introductions and just memorize the words without understanding how they break down. But when we say Ohokwa Omieksu Eli, my mother is Eli, there's the in there. You see that? That part is the part that means is. Ohokwa Omieksu Eli. The word Ohokwa is difficult to explain. It can't be directly translated into English because the way Nuchano talks about possession is quite different from the way English talks about possession. So for now, you should memorize the sentence. You should recognize the fact that it has parts that you recognize, like you should recognize the that's the same we use when we say ma Mario, he's Mario, ha Adam, I'm Adam. And that's the same that we use when to talk about ourselves. Ha Adam, oklama Adam, istakshitlah siat, and so on. Ohok means you're identifying something that belongs to someone. The uk is possessive. It's a possessive ending. So when I say, ma Mario, I mean, I'm identifying him. He's Mario. But if I said, Ohokma Mario Hutsma Lisa, now I'm identifying something that belongs to Mario. That little uk means that I'm talking about something that belongs to him. Ohokma Hutsma, she's his wife. Ohokma Chakup, he's her husband.
Belongs to you too.
Ohokwa Hutsma Heather, my wife is Heather. Ohokwa Hutsma Heather. Ohokma Heather Chakup Adam. Heather's husband is Adam. Ohokma Heather Chakup Adam. Once you get comfortable with these sentences, they're a very efficient way to describe who owns what. But they're very strange at first because they're totally different from the way English talks about possession. So here are the two core sentences we're learning. Ohokwa. Say them with me. Ohokwa.
Ohokwa.
Omiyasu.
Omiyasu.
Meli. Ohokwa.
Ohokwa.
Nuiksu.
Nuiksu.
Victor. If you're speaking Central dialect, all you need to do is change the endings.
Okay.
Ahoks means mine is. Ahoks. Omieksu. Eli. Ahoks. Nuiksu. Victor. My father is Victor.
Can you do the late one in there too? I don't know if I'm comfortable with saying.
Yeah, let's do that next. When we talk about deceased people, just like in English, we talk about them in the past tense. And the past tense is pronounced it. So we need to put an it in there. So ohokwa becomes ohokwita. Try it. Ohokwita.
Ohokwita.
Mine was. Ohokwita omieksu. My late mother was. Ohokwita Omyeksu Grace. Ohokwita Nweksu Henry. And if you're speaking Central dialect, all we need to do is replace ah with s. Ohokwits Nweksu Henry. Ohokwits Omyeksu Grace. So now we're ready to try our full introduction.
I don't think that it's a traditional.
We're going to do conversation 2. Ask your partner, who are you? Chuck Huck. And this time, instead of answering just by saying, oh, ha, Adam, or say, ah, Adam, you're going to give a slightly longer introduction by saying where you're from, who your mother is, and who your father is. I come from, and then say wherever you consider yourself to be from, the place where you're born, the place where you grew up, your tribe, any of those words. I come from Port Alberni. I come from Heshkwi. Canada, I come from Canada. All of those are fine. Whatever you think is most appropriate for you. Esprit?
How would you run those together? Ish?
Sorry?
Like if you want to say like, oh, I'm from Port Alberni, but my roots are from blah, blah.
Well, that gets complicated.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to work on that with you.
Okay, let go.
One phrase you can use is ahoksmukmums. My roots are, or histakshikluksmukmums, my roots are from. So I can write that up for you in the break.
Let go. So you can say the ish. When you're introducing
yeah, if you're just listing people, you can use ish for and. So ahokwa, mine are, Nananixu, grandparents, Bob, ish, Carol, ish, Annie, ish, Lisa, and so on. But I'm assuming that everyone has one mother and one father. I guess that's not true for everyone. It is for all of us. Okay, turn to your same partner. Do conversation 2 3 times in one direction and 3 times in the other direction. So 6 times. Cool. And if your parents are deceased, then be sure to use the past tense appropriately.
I introduce myself.
Yeah.
I tell them, I say what kind of woman I am. So instead of just saying like I'm from here, I'll say Huya Aksuma. I'm a Huya woman. And then I kind of smush the word together and Ojibwe Aksuma. Oh, for me, because that's how I like to identify. So
over and over. Okay.
We haven't gone over that yet, but that's the way to do it without having to say I'm from here and from here and from here.
Yeah.
That might be something we can talk with him about.
Perfect. Yeah, because like I want to introduce myself that like I grew up in Port Alberni, but I'm Chippewa or Ojibwe. Like
It just you're getting into really long sentences, so I thought I'd give you a little cheater to talk with you about after.
So for Ojibwe, have you figured out?
Practicing now.
Alright.
Did you want to?
Okay, that's cool.
Uklama 3. Then do you want to ask? Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. Oh, no, I see. Sorry, my bad. Oh, okay, do you mind if we start again?
I don't know if I'm hearing you wrong, but
It's Shikla Chippewa.
I think I said mom actually said oh, okay. Say your name.
Joe. Okay. Looks like they almost missed a step. Bree? Or class Bree?
I've worked on my introduction a long time.
Right. Okay, so Free. His Achikla
Next lesson. Or it was in the previous one. It was in a different one. I think it comes next actually.
Donna?
Like next week or something.
Hokwa Nuiksu Ron. Oh, sorry, I have to write this down. And one where it's really hard for me to connect, I have to have it written down.
I don't know.
Let's try to get this. Free. Chippewa. Uhakwa Ixudana.
I have a hard time with father.
I have heard people say
The hard consonants are very difficult.
Free. Hisakshikla. Chippewa. Ohakwa Umitsu Donna. Uhakwa or Uhakwa Nuiksu Achaka.
Su Darlene, Uhukwa, Nuiksu Larry. I have to really.
Yeah, like think about it.
Achaka.
Postinat. That's what it is. Postinat.
Achaka.
I wonder if I should like do that. Yeah, you'd be like, who is that man, right? So does that woman? So it would Does that make sense?
But yaw is like
All right. Do you mind if I try again? Okay, awesome. Oh, right. Are we supposed to do the other ones? Is there other ones?
We're just having fun.
Oh. Okay. Oh. I'm not quite ready yet.
Let's get crazy.
Okay.
So I think the yaw means like when it's there.
Oh, sure. Free. It's Chippewa. Ohakwa Umitsu Donna. Uhakwa Nuiksu Run.
Well, there's some words that I'm not sure if I can do perfectly.
Achaka.
And the grade 7 one's even longer. Grade 7's coming up. Yeah. Grade 7's have a whole other paragraph. Yeah, it's like another like 10 lines there.
Okay, so that's
I don't know if they do that long one every single day, but they do it so that like special events. They've got a really we've learned it once before.
Good. Mother It's so funny. I was told, like, I'm so used to learning this way, And I was told, no, I don't want you to read and look at stuff. I want you to memorize it through listening. So now I've been doing that. So now when I read it, I'm like, I don't know where I'm at. I'm doing better listening now. It's so weird.
Couple more minutes? Okay, couple more minutes. If you've done
Oh,
it 6
yes,
times
I work
already,
with
do it 3 more times.
Tupac. She's amazing. Amazing lady.
If we wanted to say,
Brief?
Go ahead. Get you.
No, it's different language. You have to go, can I read it?
It's
And then we're taking it
Chikla,
Okay.
Chikla, Chippewa, Ahopa, Umitsu, Umitsu,
Yeah, you can fill this in with any
Ahopa,
language.
Umitsu,
And then the answer is.
Get there eventually. Achaka,
Was your grandparents? My grandmother. That's complicated because you refer to your siblings of the same gender as older or younger. But your siblings of the opposite gender are just one word. So the woman's brother is Hutchinson, and a man's sister is man's brothers are older or younger.
I won't look at you.
yeah, I'm noticing like almost like a T here, so. Oh, I apologize. Okay. No, okay, gotcha. Yes, you did see that earlier, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But my brother,
If he's younger than
Oh, he's older.
Yeah.
Because he's older brother.
Usually you just call it Jim Simpson.
Thank you so much.
But if it was important to say that he was older, you could say Mom is Jim Simpson, right? If it was important.
If it's brother to brother, there's different. It's brother to brother.
If I was remember sister,
then you can get
then I can remember you.
That's how we
I think they might be quick.
we'll read this lots
and
of,
you get to learn.
lots of words say that.
how do you say mother-in-law? Is it
Yeah.
You know what I was doing?
Well, that was-
Queen,
And I would start doing this whole like let's just chanting them and like
That's
it was fun.
Some of you are asking about other ways to talk about relatives, and New Channel has a very rich vocabulary for talking about how people are related to you. Like we talk about our siblings differently depending on whether they're the same gender as us, whether they're older or younger, whether they're the same gender as us. There's also words for in-laws, grandchild, great-grandchild, son-in-law, mother-in-law, and Chester was asking me about what you call step-parents and stepchildren.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure there are any words for step-parents and stepchildren because when you would, Angie says there is.
There is, but I'm not really quite sharp on it too.
So
I gotta think on it.
I haven't taken the time yet to learn all those complex relationships, but the late Carrie Little wrote a short article about that that's full of useful information. So I will bring that in next time for us to look at.
It becomes really complicated when you start going into all your relatives. Because there's, like I said, there's brother to brother, they don't say the same as sister to brother.
Mm-hmm.
And sister to sister is probably different from both. Brother and sister probably say, like, if a brother said, this is my sister, he'd say it from how I say my sister. And the brother to brother, this is my brother, he'd say. But if it's sister to brother, it's different again.
So it's a rich topic.
It is.
So after the break, we'll talk a little bit about tribe names. But what I'd really like to do is work up to doing conversations 3 and 4 freely. Talk about people who are.
Huksuatuin.
2 minutes.
I learned that.
Wait, 2 minutes?
No, I'm joking,
Angie?
you can have
Wait,
4 minutes.
Okay, so.
we into Isabel or Annabelle?
It can also be delicious in general. Anything cooking.
Maybe this is winner.
No, the one I wrote.
How did the kids do it? Were they into it? You know, nobody was gonna be.
Oh, I know. How would I say? Because to me, what's important is being able
Girl, I
to
apologize. I
explain
forgot we
where I come from in relation to. Like, no one's gonna know who my mom and dad are. Sure, maybe it's like on them, but I would, if I'm meeting you and you say, who are you, right? Then I can say, oh, my mother-in-law is Annabelle, and my husband's grandmother is Hessa, right? Those are important. My brain is full, but so how would I say? Should I just say my husband's grandmother or my grandmother-in-law? Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
It's from
So
8:30 to about 11:30, and that's the last time I do speak to Chelsea.
So what was your first one?
Oh, right, Chakup. And Josh helps out.
Okay. Chakupukas. And then it was
Oh, yeah. That'd be great. More elders and better. I think that'd be really cool.
Minor adjustments.
It's similar, but like you said, minor adjustments and that, because I do Heshquit, and it's because I'll say something, he's like, oh, that's Heshquit. I'm like, oh, right? I'm like, it's hard learning two at the same time. Like I do want mainly focus on Heshquit, but I'll learn a bit of our characters. If I could see Heshquit being my main one, that I probably use for now.
And we've so much enjoyed having her at the board table. She really helps us understand things, you know? Yeah. Awesome. We have to start working on the election again. Yeah, in October. Yeah. 4 years went by.
No sugar added. I don't know how that will taste, but this year coffee.
Yeah, so that's coffee, milk, sugar,
No sugar added. I don't know what it will taste like. Oh yeah.
Yeah, what we talk about this.
I'll try to make sure I bring something. Sugar 0.
Real money.
Sure. So you'll have to do it. I'll try to make sure I bring something. Well, it's always last minute, I still have to get something, so I pull the Bible, and then I want like crackers or pepperoni or whatever, and then they never have that. Oh.
That would be a good time.
In those days,
Oh, we broke down.
it's all you. Husband's grandmother's the same profile.
I just surprised that here. It wasn't like sugar. Yeah.
Better not.
Yeah. Was wondering if we need to be around.
It's like 5, 7, 5.
Right. Do so many things. True. Because to me it looked so impossible to do this, but she just would go right at it. And so good job for the
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna grab some chamas.
How are you doing? Michelle, cold.
I had to bring my dog up. Stay overnight. Take her.
How old?
14.
Oh wow, what breed is she? Oh,
Getting blind.
Yeah, they do at that age. That's what my dad's dog is too. I think she's gonna be 15 this year. I think. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
She walks. She goes to listen to my voice. Actually, you my voice.
Aww. So what band are you from? Wait.
No, oh, okay. 3 weeks too.
So I wasn't going to go, but I was real happy. I woke up on Friday. If you live good today, and I said, I'll take you to and then I have some things that need a refill. I felt okay. I felt good that I was saying no.
There's sugar free, and there's a cake. There's cake too.
Well, I've read it, right? If you read it, you never read it. Brothers were it's a lot harder to get on those sounds. Oh, yeah, reading.
Yeah, went there. I got back home. I got roots.
So I guess we'll meet at the office. Wait for Sean to show us where
Well, I do have a big thing that we're starting to do last week.
I was like that, I went to Las Vegas, in the year, and we went to Grand Canyon, and I get here on the plane, I get here, like I say, oh, no, I
Well, you know, we were there, we were
and that's it, the same thing on bus trip, 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours, we were on a bus to get it. And I stopped, we got home, what happened? I got sick, I really got sick. And I did the same thing as you. I
Oh, yeah.
really good. I said, oh, yeah, I feel good. I got up,
gonna be
take the dog for a walk,
Yeah.
and then I got home and then, oh, dang.
Well, in our just like space, in our space.
Okay, I would like to ask a question. So, that when you say you don't know someone, you can say Hagna Heisel.
So
You-
I'm still.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not in that, there
Okay,
are
so
no.
she said, I wasn't sure if she said Hagna Heisel. Yes.
But you're always welcome to
Going
come by and see where we are.
Central word is Hayom. Hard work with Hayom. Hayom Hay. And this for Hayom Hay.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome. And, oh, you're going to tell me more on what was it, the.
Oh, talking about your roots?
Yeah.
Yeah, here's a couple of phrases you can say.
It's the more, but I still can see it. But I like to write something up because I had to play written out.
I did, yeah. I mean, I didn't know your time, but I threw it together, but
Roots is roots. So, my roots are like
Okay.
Hoksmukmuns Chippewa, or Istakshit, these come from Istakshit Hoksmukmuns, my roots come from Ojibwe country.
Okay.
Ojibwe country, one way to say that is Ojibwe.
Okay. Another thing, Brittany said too that was good, because the title could get quite long depending like where if you're saying where you're all from. You go say I, like she says I'm a Ojibwe woman or I am a Hawaii woman. Okay, Ojibwe. Chippewa Aksu.
And I couldn't.
I did everything right. The only thing that
Perfect. That's probably a lot easier to. I'll probably bug you more about that on Saturday. Are you still gonna be there Saturday? Okay, awesome. I'll be there. Last.
You remember because especially when we got to the high school.
Oh, I want to show you. This is cool.
Is that right?
But I can remember you and your sister, like, because you were like
Oh, okay, so.
in the school when it was like.
Close enough. Close enough.
You were good at
Close
And
enough.
so for whatever
Okay.
reason, a lot of those people in that first year.
This is why I was here Saturday. Wasn't there Saturday?
Every child does matter.
Yeah, did banner paintings. That was the banner I did. I saw it on a T-shirt, the flip sign, so I grabbed it and I did it in a way on the banner. And I'm like, yay! Yeah, cool. It's supposed to be solid orange, but I just grabbed a bunch of colors and smeared them on it. It looks really cool, like sunset, like. Oh, yes. The up top.
We're finished roasting, we're gonna learn some more now.
Highlight.
Asikatan Hoksatu. Oaswitasin, Oaswitasni Hoksatu. So I'd like to work up to being able to have free conversations like the kinds that are demonstrated in 3 and 4. These are simple, short sentences, but there's a lot that goes into knowing how to make those sentences. And I've laid out some of that right here that we're going to go through. But first, we're going to talk about the names of tribes. And I also wanted to tell you about a conversation that I've been having this week with some other language teachers. I had a question about what names we should be teaching for the names of the months on the West Coast in Cloquet and the Hausa territory. So I asked some of the other people I work with what they should use, and you might know Nasopuk John Rampanen. He's an Hausa man and advanced learner of Nuchonal, and he's made a special study of the moons. And what John said is that what we've been doing, like when we say things like Hayuish Suchachis Sukma Suchachis Atukma Itim Hayuish Suchachis Atukma Itim. It's the 15th of Itim February. What we're doing is we're translating a Western month, February, with a Nuchonal moon name. But in fact, the way the moons work in traditional Nuchonal culture is totally different from the way the Western months work. Western months are designated to have a certain number of days that adds up to 365 or 366, whereas the traditional Nuchonal calendar is a lunar calendar which follows the moon cycle. So every time a new moon shows up, that new moon gets a name. And moons are actually 29 and a half days long, exactly. And so because of that, sometimes there will be 13 moons in a year, which in Western culture is called blue moon, but in Nuchonal culture, it's not unusual because every month is the same length. So basically what John said is that this was the traditional system. Why are we translating Western months with Nuu-chah-nulth names? Why don't we just teach the Nuu-chah-nulth system? And if we want to translate Western months, which sometimes we might want to do when we're speaking Nuu-chah-nulth, he suggested just calling them Nop-koms, At-koms, Katz-koms, Mu-koms, first month, second month, third month, fourth month. Last time we learned that we can use the ending kims to count round things. We use it to count dollars and also moons because they're both round. But to start teaching the more traditional way. And at first I thought, well, that sounds complicated, but then I thought, why not? So I think we're gonna start implementing that, and that'll make our discussion of the date even more interesting. At the beginning of class.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
So in conversation 2, when you're giving your short introduction, you started out by saying, in response to a chakak, Adam Klama, I come from Seattle, but instead of saying where you're from, or in addition to saying where you're from, it's also normal in a traditional introduction to identify your tribe. Nuu-chah-nulth has a very specific language for discussing tribes. And you find that on the third page. Most tribal names in Nuu-chah-nulth end in At. And here's a list of most of the major tribes in Nuu-chah-nulth territory. So let's practice saying them. Nuu-chah-nulth At.
Nuu-chah-nulth At.
The second N is hard. Nuu-chah-nulth At.
Nuu-chah-nulth At.
Chek-tlisat.
Chek-tlisat.
Ka-yu-kwat.
Ka-yu-kwat. Ka-yu-kwat.
I-hatisat.
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 Nuu-chah-nulth.
Nuu-chah-nulth. Nuu-chah-nulth.
Chinakintat.
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 Chinikint is part of Ahadisat, or officially now the Ahadisat Chinikint tribe.
Not Chetticus anymore.
Yeah, it's where Tony John's family's from. He's the Chinikint chief.
Okay, that's new.
Muwachak.
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 Machsat.
Machsat.
Hashquiyat.
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 Ahosat.
Ahozat.
Ahosat.
Ahozat.
Klauquiyat.
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 Yushuisat.
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 Tuquat.
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 Hochaklisat.
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 Tishat.
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 Upachasat.
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 U'ayat.
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 Nitinat.
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 Bachinat.
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 Kunishchat.
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 There's the term Nuu-chah-nulth is a bit ambiguous in the narrow sense. Nuu-chah-nulth refers just to the tribes from Cheklicit down to Huu-ay-aht. In an even more narrow sense, it refers only to the bands that are still part of Nuu-chah-nulth Tribal Council. It's also been used in a broader sense to include the Ditidas, Bachidas, and Makahs because these tribes are closely related and their languages are similar. But Ditidas, Bachidas, and Makahs speak different languages, related languages, but they're different. So I usually use Nuu-chah-nulth because it's convenient to have names for these different groups. I use Nuu-chah-nulth for Cheklicits down to the Huu-ay-ahts, and I refer to all these people as the West Coast people because what they have in common is they live right on the ocean coast and their culture and their way of life is determined by the ocean. But you'll find other ways that people talk about these. Most of these names are based on places. So Ahos is a place, Ahosat are the people from that place who live at that place. Tuqua is a place, Tuquat, the people who live at that place. And actually, a lot of these tribes don't live anymore at the place that they're named after. Just a handful do. So there are still people living at Hashqui. there are still people living at Ihatis. And I think those might be the only two tribes that are still living at the place that they're named after. No, Ahos, well, the place that we call Ahousen in English is actually called Maktusis in Nuchano. Ahos is a different village. And the reason the whole tribe is called Ahousen is because the Ahos people were very numerous people, right? One of the most numerous groups that got amalgamated. So that's how Maktusis got the name Ahousen in English. Similarly, the place we call Cayuquet in English is not actually Cayuc. Cayuc is a village a little bit into the sound from the current village of Cayuquet. The current village of Cayuquet is actually called Hoopsitas in Nuchano.
So Hoopachus, I think we live in the same area that we.
Do you know where Hoopachus is?
Yeah, River Road.
Oh, really?
That's where this is where we, one of our villages is there.
Okay, yeah, we wondered about that. So Hoopachus is on River Road?
River Road and back, but I was gonna ask you this question.
Where the old band office is?
The old band office. We call ourselves Hoopachusets, but we have other reserves that we have where other people live, or like we have Kukut. And but where we live on the River Road, Hoopachusset, that reserve in there is Ahaswinis. So I'm not sure like the difference between Hoopachusset and Ahaswinis is the place that they call where we live, but we're Hoopachusset people.
Okay, that's good to know. So
and the people up at Kukut are also.
So there are still Hoopachusset people living at Hoopachus.
Yeah, we've got about 4 different areas.
Yes, Caitlin?
My students always correct me in the way I say that word. I say Hoopachusset. They say Hoopachusset.
No.
Are they wrong?
They're wrong.
I think they're wrong, but they always tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think you're putting your finger on a difficult problem for us, which is that is that these places, a lot of these place names got adopted into English. They're unpronounceable in English, so they're pronounced differently in English. So we say Ahouset in English, but it's Ahouset in Nuchano.
Right.
And if you've been saying Ahouset all your life, it's kind of hard to adjust back to Ahouset. I have to really slow down, make sure that I'm saying Ahouset if I'm speaking Nuchano, or Ahouset if I'm speaking English. So it's the same problem with Hoopachusset. In Nuchano, it's Hoopachusset. Hoopachusset. The first vowel is long. Hoopachusset. The stress syllable is the second one. Hoopachusset. Hoopachusset.
It was called Hoopachusset, which was on the maps and everything years and years ago. That's what it was. And that's what everybody, and so a lot of the kids were Opats. I mean, it's just, it's
yes, in English, people say Hoopachusset or Hoopachusset. Or Hoopachusset in the old days.
Right.
So there's at least 3 different English pronunciations. That's the Nuchano pronunciation.
Well, they say Tokort Bay still.
Yeah,
Tokort.
Yes, Daryl?
And Quidditch, that means people who live on the cliffs by the sea. And we're lucky enough to have where our forefathers were as well too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, you live right on the edge.
Yeah, the literal translation is the people who live on the cliffs by the sea with the birds.
Queenie.
Quidditch.
Oh.
And Daryl's people are an example of where their English name is completely different from the native name.
Yeah.
Because the English name Makah was taken from the Klallams. Because the Klallams are a little bit inland, so white people met the Klallams before they met the Makah, and the Klallams said they're the Makah. So that's why we still call them Makah in English, but your real name is Quidditch Jad.
All right.
I'm gonna ask you, from further, are they the same language as Zook and Nitnet?
No, not the same. But Daryl's language is more similar to Ditida than it is to your language.
They understand each other in their language? Yeah.
So like earlier we were learning how to say, oh ha, Adam, I'm Adam. In Chester's dialect, you'd say, oh, Siish.
Yeah.
Oh, Siish, Chester. I heard Daryl say, ohus, Daryl. That's how he says it in his language, ohus. And in Ditida, I would just say, ohs, Adam. I am Adam, ohs, Adam. So you hear that they're all similar, but all a little bit different. What did you, Angie, Big Ange, what did you say about Ut?
I was saying Ut, it just means from the place, like a house Ut, the people of a house.
Now let's talk about the ending aksup. So aksup is for referring to females, and you can replace at with aksup to talk about a woman or a girl. At is for everyone. Aksup is only for women and girls. So Yukluit at refers to any Yukluit person or to the whole Yukluit tribe, but a Yukluit woman or girl would be Yukluit aksup. Yukluit aksup. Let's try a few more. Tokwat could be the whole Tokwat tribe or any Tokwat person, male or female, but a Tokwat woman or girl is Tokwat aksup. How chuklas at? How chuklas aksup? Who purchased? So if you're a woman and you're identifying yourself, you have a choice. You can use the at form or the aksup form. Either one works. Men can only use the at form. When you say I am, if you want to say I am a hu purchased woman, hu purchased aksup, what ending do we want to put on that to make a complete sentence? I am a mah. Mah, right. Same ending as in uklamah, Adam. Uklamah, Adam. If I were little Ange, I might say uklamah Angie, hu pachas aksupa. Hu pachas aksupa. I am a hu pachas woman. Hu pachas aksupa. And we've talked a little bit about how the M in ma is pronounced after vowels, but not after most consonants. But there's an additional wrinkle, which is that the M really likes to merge with a P. So some people say hu pachas aksopah, I'm a hu pachas woman. Some people say hu pachas aksomah, I'm a hu pachas woman. Both are heard. You have a choice. Matter of personal taste. Yes, Brittany?
I've been practicing with Hue Aksumah, and there's been a couple of times where an elder has told me that it's Hue Aksup. Is it, I was wondering if it was that, is it like a slang like mommy is slang for mommy Aksu? Like it's the short version. Like, can I just say Hue Aksup and they know that I'm a Hue woman?
Well, Hue Aksup is not a complete sentence.
No.
But whether you say Hue Aksumah or Hue Aksupah, I wouldn't call that slang. I'd call that contraction.
Okay.
It's kind of like in English, we can say it is or it's.
Yeah.
One is more contracted than the other.
Okay.
And there are situations where we don't contract, like if we're speaking carefully or formally, then we don't contract.
Maybe I just wasn't being careful in my pronunciation, which is probably the case.
And you've seen that New Channelth words can be really long with lots of meaningful parts, and a lot of it's made even more complicated by the fact that lots of those parts can contract with each other in particular ways that you have to learn. And there's a lot of optionality with contraction. There's contractions that are possible, and some people do them and some people don't. I will give you 5 minutes to do exercise 2 with a partner that I'm going to assign to you. And this time you're going to identify your tribes as well. So in response to a chuck huck. And let's also mix in conversation 1. So we're going to put 1 and 2 together. You're going to talk about your name and who you are, your parents, where you're from, and your tribe. So for example, if I were talking to Katie, Katie, would you mind helping me demonstrate? A chuck huck.
Uklama Katie.
A chuck huck.
Istakshapla Sumaas. Uhokwa Omiexu Sharon. Uhokwa Nuiexu Brett.
Oh, true. Ake at huck. And tell me your tribe as well. Ake at huck.
What if I don't have to?
Yeah, it's a little difficult because you're a white woman. So
Yeah, Kanata at.
that's one thing that I say. Kanata at.
Kanata at.
Yeah, or kanata aksup.
Kanata
Canadian woman.
Aksup.
Some people say kinchoch aksup. Kinchoch at.
King George.
Yeah.
King George.
So here's some ways to say Canadian. Kanata at. Kanata aksup. Kinchoch. There was a time when the United States and Britain were hotly contesting who would control the west coast of North America, and Victoria was right in the center of that. that fight. And at that time, the Americans that people around here knew were mostly sailors from Boston, and the Canadians, who were also Brits, were subjects of King George. So that's how Canadians got called Kinchochat, and Americans got called Poston.
What about Port Alberni if they want to say they're from Port Alberni?
Yeah.
Would that be the Sumasa?
Suma'asat also works. So these are all ways that you could identify
Can you
yourself.
add soap to that if you're a girl?
Yeah, Suma'asat Suma. I'm a woman from Port Alberni.
Okay, so the other thing I noticed too is at the end of like Hupachasat, I don't say the whole Hupachasat, I say Hupachas Apsu.
Right. Place names Hupachas. You can add either up or upsup to that, not both. So take off at before you add upsup.
So you just say kanata at, or do you say like kanata at si? You say I'm.
What do we need to add to kanata at to make it a complete sentence? I am a Canadian. Ma, right. So it'll become kanata at ha. Kanata at ha. In this case, the M will not be pronounced. It's not pronounced after Bakich. Kanata at ha. But if you're a Canadian woman, you might pronounce the M. Kanata aksupa or kanata aksuma. So let's practice these tribe names. Kanata at.
Kanata.
Kanata aksup.
Kanata aksup.
Kinchochat.
Kinchochat.
Kinchochaksup.
Kinchochat.
Postonat.
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 Suma'asat.
Suma'asat.
Suma'asaksup.
Suma'asaksup.
Okay, let's try that again, Katie. So this time you're gonna add your tribe to your introduction as well. Achakhak.
Oklama, Katie.
Achakhak.
Hisakshakla, Sumas. Uhokwa, Umiexu, Sharon. Uhokwa, Nuiexu, Brent. And Kanataaf. Kanataaf? Ma.
Kanata ta.
Kanata.
If you want to make a complete sentence. Kanata at. I am a Canadian person. Kanata at ha. Okay, these are your groups. Angie and Clara, Pam and Bree, Moira and Katie, Caitlin and Heather, Lisa and Brittany, Peggy and Allison, Daryl and Giles, Angie, Miller, and Mario.
Sorry, who was it? Okay.
Sure. Clara, I thought you would like to stay with Angie since you seem to be working.
I can't say here though. Yep.
I'll come over there, Daryl.
I'll come over there.
Yeah, I think I really like all these.
So give your extended introduction 3 times.
Yeah, really.
You have 5 minutes.
Where'd she go?
She's supposed to be in the washroom. Oh, here,
I'm really bad.
This is
Yeah.
I don't think the M's on there means it's just one to see there's a bunch
New week suit. Or course, or Angie.
Oh, you're supposed
Okay, Angie?
This is
I plus right again.
So now
Oh, that's interesting. I like that. Can I help you? Oh, that's what I do. That's cat. No, me to you. Read the start from up here again. Or did I ask you? Okay, good for me to practice.
I think when you put that in, I think the H becomes part of the last letter. I think it's so let's talk.
It's not everybody. Okay. He do what?
Each other, you know, so
I want to ask you if you can help me.
I have a question. Okay.
I was trying to be so great.
So when you're doing your introduction and you're trying to get it on their time, maybe they'll chuck out. So when you're seeing your mother, a chuck out.
You say her name before she was or you say her married name, you say it out. Oh, this is, so I get it. Same as don't worry
I've heard people use, I think I actually heard my dad say, if I was introducing his mom, my grandmother, he says, Joan Johnson, nee Max. So it was Disney and.
I know it's okay.
I was like, is this an English word? Is this an alternative word? Oh, I didn't know that.
All right. I guess would it be because that or people mostly knew everybody's first name?
Well, I guess they would ask if they, right? If you introduced your parents, and then they would go, oh, what was her name before she married? So it would be a follow-up question rather than
Introduction.
Stay around. Yeah. Got his ups and downs. But my whole family's here, so it kind of brings back.
Oh, yeah. I thought she was asking with us. Okay. Yeah, up to
You're also showing the connection.
Which other one? We're supposed to be doing it now.
I know it's
Oh, okay. Mother.
So us with this in Ishimi. I think this is a good time to practice how we introduce ourselves at gathering. So whenever you're at whenever you meet new channel people, whether it's a gathering or you're meeting someone for the first time, it's almost always appropriate to introduce yourself and not only give your own name, but your tribe, your parents, and where you're from. And these introductions can get quite long, but I'd like to hear from everyone, and we only have 8 minutes left. So please keep it short and stick to your name, tribe, where you're from, mother, and father. And you can throw in a couple more things if you really want. And each of us will introduce ourselves and then ask the next person. And Allison will start. Chuck Huck, Takeshi, Chuck Huck.
Uklama Allison. Histakshakla Metuni Ish Sumaas. Uhukwata Wiksu Judith. Jeremy, sorry, Uhukwata Wiksu Jeremy. Uhukwa Iksu Judith. Uhukwa Quikwiksu Annabelle Anderson. Canada Aksuma.
Oh.
Nice.
Sakshia Atu Yaftutsmei. Please ask that one. Introduce yourself.
Chaplaha.
Takeshi.
Okay. Ukla Spree.
嗯
Hesag Iskla Chippewa Aksups Ahukwa Omixu Donna Ahukwa Nuixu Ronald.
Oh. Jim Duck, do you, Chucklebeat?
Oh. Daryl?
Chuck Huck, wait. Chuck Huck.
See ya, Daryl. Histakshitlan Nia Bay. Is, I have to cheat still. See, Histakshitla Quidditch ad. Is, Hukwam Naniaksu Helmaswan is Hukwa. Let's see, great grandfather was Charlie Swan. I don't know how to say great grandfather. Sure.
Sure. Oh. We love Lakshya Atu Ya Lutsme. Ah, need Lutsme. Takashi. Takashi.
Now I go from there, you gotta ask me one more question? Okay, Histakshika, Upachasat, Uhukwita, Umiaksu, Earl Elizabeth Tetush, Uhukwita, Noayaksu, Earl Tetush, and I gotta look at this one. Upachas, Aksu, Suma.
Oh. Jutluya Imshi, Lakshya Atu, Ya Lutsme, Ayim Hema, Yakusi.
Chaklaha.
Uklama Heather.
Kishi, Heather. Takishi.
Uklama Heather. Histakshikla Sayat. Uhukwa Umiksu Melody. Uhukwa Nuwiksu Dwayne. Postin Aksup.
Oh. Lakshya Atu, Ahni Lutsme.
Achakak.
Uklama Hinatinius. Ak Brittany Johnson. Histakshia Kla Chichasius. Uhukwa Umiaksu Darlene. Uhukwa Nutwiksu Larry. Huayaksuma. Jibwayaksuma.
Lakshya Atu, Ahni Ureaksu.
Achakak.
Ultrama, Ultrama Clara, Histakshia, Huayat, Aksu, Ma, Uhak, Uhukwa, Umixu Lucy, Uhak, Uhakwa, Nuixu Ernest.
Oh. Lakshya Atu, Ya Ejimi.
Lakshya Atu Ichimi, he said.
A Chuck Huck way, a Chuck Huck.
Oh, a Chuck Huck. Sorry.
I
forgot to call my name.
Jamutasta clause.
Jamutets.
Uklama Angie, Histakshita, Huet, Huayat, Huayaksuma, Uhakita, Umixabella, Wilson.
Oh. Dakshi atu yatutsme.
Okay. Thank you for all your kindness, Angie. It's okay. Yuklama Pam, Histakla Port Alberni, Yukok. Oh, wait a minute. Yukok Wata Isku Velma, Uhakwata Nuisku James.
Oh. Dakshi atu yatutsme.
Uklama Moira. Uklus Aksutma. Uhukwa Umiksu Marie O'Day. Mamathni Aksu Ma. Uhukwa Nuiksu Leroy Barney. Uhukwa Naniksu Roy Ish Mary Barney.
Atu is Adam Oklama, Boston Atha, Istakshitla, Si'ah, Ahokwa Homiaksu, Beth Ahokwa Nuiksu, Kent, Ahokwa Ya Lutzma Heather. Achakak.
Oklama, Lisa, Tremblay, Ahokwa, Uixu, Francis, Ahokwita, Nuixu, Louis Zimmerman, Ahokwita, Naniksu, Violet McDonald, Kanatat Ha.
Oh. Atu I Chakopo.
Chaklaha.
Sorry, I don't think he goes. I don't know why. Okay. I don't know, and it's not you, it's just me. I was tired, I guess. Uklama Mario Tremblay, Histak Shitlach, Bécomo, Québec. Just trying not to look at my sheet. Uhokwa, Umiksu Thérèse Tremblay, Uhokwa, Nuiksu Bert Tremblay, Kanata At.
Oh.
Sorry for that.
It's probably a good thing we're finished with you. Uklama Giles, Ishtak Sekla, Tsumaas At, Uhakwa Umieksu Pat, Uhakwa Nuieksu John.
Oh.
Uklama Caitlin, Histak Shakla Sumaas, Ohokwa Uniaksu Shelley, Ohokwa Nuiaksu Len, Kanata Atha.
Uklama Katie.
Uklama Katie, Histakshakla Sumaas, Ohokwa Nuiaksu Brent Anderson, Ohokwa Umiaksu Sharon Anderson, Kanata Aksu Ma.
Oh. Choose what you got so wa mahsa yakisu.
They didn't do the guys.
Na, Dutch.